Yeah, I just got here. I'm mad honored to be here. Thank you for hosting me for lunch earlier on, and all the turnout as well. Strong, all the support on the book. I'm mad grateful for this. This is not something I could have expected by just starting a little note series, and obviously, my first time here as well. So I've been on total of one road so far. So be gentle. I'm gonna go through some of the ideas. We'll do a bunch of questions and like chat. We're doing the panels as well later on after having a little break. And I'm going to go through it. I'm going to run through the ideas quickly. Apologies if I speak very fast. My London, I can't shake it out of me. I've lived there forever. But I'll try. All right? We good? Okay. All right. This is a summary of my little journey in music over the last 15 years. So I started out on the internet in the early noughties, like the zeros, as like a writer writing about pirate radio culture in London. So this is like grime music, dubstep, jungle, garage, and this kind of stuff. This is very early, so it'd be like 2006, 2007. I have the first ever grime upload onto YouTube in April 2006. This is very early days. I like directed a music video for my friends in the area. I put it up on YouTube, this new platform, which is like 20 years old now, which is bizarre. Anyway, that kind of developed into like DJing. Like I was playing the local music for me, so grime was the local music at the time. So people that you know now, like Skepta, Jamie, Wiley, Dizzy Rascal, and then later on Stormzy and all these kind of characters. We founded a label called Butters, so this is me and my friend Skilliam that I met at university. We linked up with other producers and artists, Swindle, Flavor D, DJ Q, Royal T, Champion, like loads of different kind of producers. Then eventually, this is kind of happening at the same time, became a promoter for the music, which I'll talk about in a second. I spent the majority of the time as more like a manager behind the scenes. I never thought that I'd kind of like be speaking in front of people or even performing or anything like this, because most of my work was trying to help artists get out their ideas. And then over the last couple of years while doing this project, I've been helping other artists with their ideas and other projects and businesses and stuff. But like the last 90 days, this is the last kind of stop on the book tour. I've been an artist. So this is the first time I've really been just doing my own project. So this is a very short window of time. And I think maybe after a couple of weeks break, I'm gonna try a new thing. So that's 15 years compressed into about 1 minute. But I'll go into bits by bit. Okay, so you can't read this properly here, but in the beginnings of our story, this is a form by our police in London called Form 696. And this effectively meant that our music, grime, a lot of UK garage, jungle, drum and bass was kind of banned in London as a kind of club culture. So what happened, the police decided to make this form, and it would tell promoters, if your music attracts a certain kind of person, we can cancel your event at the drop of a hat. So just think, if you're organizing like a grime party in London in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, they could just be like, no, we don't want that. There was one bit of this form that said, what race of people are the majority of the performers and the majority of the attendees. So you can imagine if the majority of the attendees were not a race that they wanted to organize, they could cancel. So eventually that bit of the form was scrapped, but they left one important bit in, which kind of affected grime and the kind of club culture that I came from more than anything else. This was one line that said, the police can cancel your event if MCs are recorded to a backing track with a DJ between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. So instead of just having the race, they just left that one in there. So this form existed, and so I guess our music became like very anti-establishment, very anti-government. Obviously, every culture and place is different, but that's the kind of foundations of where I come from in our music. So this is one layer. And then this kind of is like the beginnings of the Butters label. I kind of speed run it through my kind of journey. I'm not going to talk about it too much. But again, at the time, we were on this thing called pirate radio, which I was talking about with the crew earlier on. So pirate radio was an illegal broadcasting system that you could use in the UK. So what artists would do, or DJs and kind of producers, they would hack the FM radio, and we could get like a frequency illegally, and people would be able to listen. So this is in the 80s, the 90s, people would play music that the mainstream stations never played. They'd kind of get audiences illegally. The police would be chasing them around the city, finding these aerials and taking them down, and people would be putting them back up and building up these stations. So Butters and the kind of grime scene is like the final child of this generation of kind of like illegal activity. So this is not something I recommend here. It was just something that was particular of its time. But again, it's like anti-establishment music, physically, the kind of space that we were in London, and the kind of attitudes of the people that were just wanted to create and just found a way to do it. Today, this is a lot easier, obviously, because of the internet. But just before, I guess, open internet and social media, this is just what we had to do to get heard. So this is, just a few kind of waves of us playing records and stuff with each other. So this is a bit too hard to follow. So this is just a few highlights from this kind of generation of clubs. Come in. A few of the nights that we did. These are taken from Fabric, this club in London. It's like one of the most famous clubs in the country, or maybe in the world. People heard of Fabric here? Okay, so at the time, they didn't allow filming in the club, but they made an exception for us because, again, our music was effectively banned. So they said, all right, cool, you can film to prove that, there's not going to be chaos if you have grime in the club. So they were kind enough to let us film. So you can see, like, this is Skepta. This was like the first performance, or the first London performance of That's Not Me, back in 2014, which was like a sick moment. This is the Newham Generals, DWE and Footsie, two of my favorite MCs. This is Kano and Getz, to everyone else, Sully from Top Boy. Yeah, okay. And then JME, who's like one of my favorite MCs. And I think JME and Skepta are effectively like the spark between me doing Butters and taking music seriously. So maybe I'll speak about them a bit later too. And yeah, throughout this period, this is a tweet from 2015. This kind of thing that I was doing, it was about trying to be open and kind of grow a scene from the beginning. So being there at the beginning of grime, you kind of see what it takes to kind of create scenes, like different DJs, producers, promoters, managers, like it takes all kinds. And I thought it was more useful for us to be sharing our ideas in a kind of very like rapidly changing music industry. So in the time that I started, for example, it went from records and CDs to digital downloads, MP3s, to streaming in like 5 years. So it was like a very chaotic time. I think now things are quite stabilized now. We've had, say, like social media for 10 years. People have had streaming for nearly 10 years. Like it's kind of reasonably stable, right? But at the time, we were just all kind of figuring things out. So this has been my kind of ethos throughout, sharing ideas and just letting them go. So yeah, I guess the iteration you're seeing now is it in note form on Instagram. I never really used Instagram before 2021. And I kind of started this project at the end of lockdown in the UK. So our lockdown was March 2020 to July 2021. So the end of July 2021 was the first time we were able to do major public gatherings again. And I was thinking, like, what is a scene going to be after everyone's been isolated for so long? How do we rebuild something maybe better than before, more interesting? I thought about, kind of combining how I think about scene building, like an art practice, music journalism, and then this feedback loop of all of these things combined. Because I think DJs are like music journalists, artists are like music journalists, artists are producing ideas, making music, we're kind of causing social change, we're gathering people, we're like creating things broader than like beats and bars, right? So it was just about kind of trying to capture that in a short form way. But just for simple terms, I just say, right now I'm a writer and DJ. So today, I'm doing this lecture and talking about the book, and obviously DJing later on with everyone else. And I think later I should go back to back with some other DJs as well. Like I didn't do that in Singapore, but I think we've got a bit of time today. Is there any MCs here as well? No? No MCs? That is a lie. Okay, all right. All right. Well, all right, we've got a couple hours, so find some MCs and we can do that. I can play some grime for them and people jump on a set. Make it happen. Anyway. So the book is called Close the App, Make the Thing, and this just came from one response to a DM to a friend. They were asking me for like advice, and I was like, I don't know, close that, make the thing. Like sometimes you listen to a certain amount of podcasts, you get, I don't know, self-help and all this kind of shit. I'm like, you just have to go. And this was this project for me too. And there was one day where I kind of looked at my own screen time of like how much I was like spending on my phone. And I did this formula, and it looked like over a lifespan, I would have 7 years of looking into my phone. So I was like, that doesn't sound good. I could either use it, the time that I'm spending on it, kind of a bit more productively than just doom scrolling and make the ting out of making a ting, or just close the app completely. And I've kind of trying to find the balance between the two things. Does anyone here want to shout out their weekly or daily screen time? Come on. Yeah, in Singapore, I think someone's was like 7 hours was okay. But the highest I've got from one of these sessions was 16. So, how many you got? 8 hours and 15 minutes. That's I think anything over a third of a day is a bit crazy. Has anyone got more than has anyone got double digits? No? I think, all right, you're right. This is, no? Anyone got higher than 8 hours? Yeah? 6? Okay, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. Maybe because the weather's nice here. Like, you know. All right, we'll keep going. So I guess like, yeah, when I kind of started this project, people thought I was running an advice page. And I guess the more and more people ask me questions, I tried to like distill all of the questions that people ask me into one thing. And I feel like it's kind of just, they all filter down to this. How can I get paid to make whatever I like without having to fund or promote it while living good in an expensive city until I die? And I think no one knows the answer to this question, right? And if you break down each part is like another layer of the Richter scale or something. So it's like, how can I get paid to make whatever I like is super hard without having to fund it 100 times harder, like 5 on the Richter scale, without having to promote it 6, while living good. I don't know if you like want a Mercedes or something or whatever what's the like hot car here? I don't know. Like, is German whips here like a thing? Like, no? Okay. And then, yeah, doing that forever. This is like way too hard. And for most of us, like me included, we kind of have like this relationship with art and creating that is going to be like, sometimes we're doing like it high intensity, sometimes we're not. Sometimes we're obviously working jobs, balancing with other things, doing family stuff, bouncing back in. That's completely normal. And I think, again, most advice kind of centers around trying to make it your 99% or your 100%, which I'm not sure how useful that is. And we might actually find more interesting spaces outside of trying to venture to do it full time. Does this make sense? This is like a bit out there, but we'll talk about that later on the panel too. This is a true test of this. So the only thing that this project has really been challenging with is I was writing this in London. Obviously my intent wasn't to come here when I started this project, but as the kind of project grew, I was thinking about, do the ideas still work everywhere? Can I make writing about creative and scenes that resonate in any scene or in any community, at any scale, or with any budget? Can we make it work? And I guess we're going to find out today if there's a test. But it's kind of cool that it's resonated this far, even though that wasn't the intent. And every project that I kind of work on now, I'm going to ask this question a bit more often: are the ideas still true at scale? Does it mean the same thing if one person is doing it, 100 people are doing it, 1,000 people are doing it? Does it work in London? Does it work in Singapore? Does it work in KL? Does it work in New York? And if it doesn't, like, why is that? So again, we'll talk about that in the Q&A. Yeah, this is the first square I did. Like the scene, kind of looking inwards, or the grime, or whatever it's going to be in the middle. But maybe being a less interesting thing, and then this idea of a scene or a community expanding is usually the most interesting. So the caption was, it's not an ecosystem if everyone is doing the same thing. It's an ecosystem if we build different ideas with the same principles and ethics. And I think most of the time we're bound, like especially the people that are in the room, we're going to be bound more like on principles and ethics. And the more we expand all the definitions of meaning, drum and bass, Mixmag, like the city, like the more interesting things can get. So when I visit other places, I'm very like aware that the meanings of these scenes, people try and retain them from like, say like London. If you have like drum and bass or techno or grime, people are like, it has to be this way because we want to make it authentic. But authentic is different in every space that you go to. And like changing things up and making it work for here. Like this is the first time I've done a talk in a restaurant, and this is a good thing. And this is like, we're making it work for where we're at. And it's super important. And this is authentic. This is real for KL, and I appreciate it. Same kind of thing here with this project, which I'll talk about a bit later, using time as a kind of forcing function to do things. So how different would the project, label, collective be if you set a 1-year time limit or some sort of time limit? A lot of the projects that maybe started in 2020 or 2021, maybe they're already like have served their purpose of bringing people together, and they're like new crews can be formed. Like I don't think crews need to last forever to make an impact or to be successful. Some crews, maybe they're good for 1 year, 2 years, boom, on to the next thing. And this kind of birthing and rebirthing of new things is exciting. It keeps things fresh. And it's more importantly, it's like the people stay interested in the projects that they're doing. A lot of the time, a lot of the creative battles that we have are like trying to maybe hang on to something that was of the previous era. So like with my project, the label Butters, I was like, that's like a 10-year project. Like how many people have the same job from 10 years ago? Not many. It's like, or you work with the same people for the same amount of time. It doesn't make it any less successful. It's like, okay, that thing has served its purpose, and moving on to the next thing has been super important in terms of developing my ideas. Yeah, the same thing here. Obviously, I'm new. I don't know what the situation is here, but it seems like it's the same in every major city in the world right now. The rent going crazy, and I've worked or talked about working with institutions about kind of things that help artists, help creatives, and help young people on the ground. And I guess this has been my answer most of the time. Like every initiative that makes it easier to live also makes it easier to create. So I guess, all right, don't say if you do, but if you work in a government here, like think about this slide more than anything. Like supporting artists is just making sure that they have, or not even artists, just our people in general, is that if we're able to have a reasonable cost of living, then there is more time and space to create. And I think there's so much effort into putting the like bit on the creative, but then if the rent is 1,000, it kind of like it's going to make it very difficult to create anything because we're always like just chasing the tail of the bills. But again, I'll speak about this a bit later. Oh, right. People ask a lot about social media. This is like a common thread, and like I guess more and more I'm trying to pull out of this world. But my answer to most things in this domain is social media is a canvas, not an advertising board. Use it in the most artistic way possible. So if you follow enough DJs or enough artists, eventually they end up all kind of posting the similar kinds of things, right? It'll be like, excited to announce I'm playing festival or something. Or in the UK, they do these things where they do like the empty venue walkthrough DJ thing. So they'll go to the venue that they're playing or doing a major show at, and they're like, wow, like they've never seen a club before. Like it's some empty venue. They're like, here, I'm going to be here on this date. Buy a ticket in the link in bio. And I just think there's more artistic ways of sharing this information and sharing like a kind of having a kind of seamless way between the art you make, the kind of advertising and things for the art that you put out, and just making them kind of a bit more seamless. That's what I've tried to do with this project. So if you think of like if you're making music or video, photos, IRL, I guess I'm seeing as like another file format, and .social as another file format. So see, like all of these things with this Yellow Square project are kind of like trying to sit together seamlessly, and like it hasn't been. I feel like it's been less effort to do it this way than to do like I guess the press shot DJ thing, like where they have these. This is a very like random observation, but DJs usually have these press shots where they're like in between some like plants or something, and they're standing there like. How does that market the music? What's that got to do with techno? Anyway, we'll keep going. And yeah, I guess why I've been on there and doing things in this way is to kind of cause this, what I call deep feedback. So trying to get an artistic response out of people or high effort comment, review, or discussion, like now. This is the deepest feedback you could have, being very, very far from home with everyone here. And then recommendation. Like recommendation doesn't come up on anyone's social media stats. Like how much your stuff has been put in a WhatsApp group or reposted or put in stories. Like that is like the highest level of compliment. So think of maybe shares and responses like this rather than like likes and comments. Like being post fire emoji. Like, or does this make sense? Like sometimes when people comment like fire emoji on a post, I'm like, you'll forget about this in like 2 minutes. And what I've tried to do with this project is make something that hopefully has a bit of a life outside of that, but we'll see about that. Yeah, has anyone watched pro wrestling here? Okay, one, okay. Usually people don't put their hands up. I think it's like one of those guilty pleasures that people have. Anyway, this is an extension of the social media post. I think over the last decade, kind of social media advice and kind of posting everyone's been pushed to be like authentic. And this idea of authentic has been quite like contrived. It's like, I'm gonna show you how I made the beat in 3 seconds. Have I got song of the summer? All of these kind of things like have become tropes. And like I've seen artists, like one of the most interesting artists I follow called Cass is Dead, for example. He's in character all the time. And I think this is like a super interesting way of playing with the reality and the fantasy at the same time. And even with this project, I have my own like little kind of quirks and jokes in it, and it keeps it kind of interesting. And pro wrestling has this line of, is it real? Is it fake? We know the bits of it that are fake, but then at the same time, their characters and their kind of real life blend together. And I find that super interesting. Whereas on social media, my friend who doesn't use social media much says, I've never followed an artist on social media and liked them more. I was like, oh, that's not good. And he was talking about me, by the way. I was like, okay, I need to find a way to play with this. Not to make people like me more, but to have, I guess, a kind of expanded way of looking at this more artistically. This is the most engaged post I have. So if you love music, you should learn how to DJ. And it got a lot of different kinds of responses. And my kind of original thought behind this was, first of all, my definition of what a DJ was is just a collector and creator of music for yourself. That's 90% of what DJing is. And then 2, as above, but for others. Whoops. Oh, we fucked up here. As above, but for others. And then 3, which I think most people focus on because it's the bit that people see most, is the in public bit. So most of the time you think of DJing as being a public performance art, and that's where it starts, when actually it just starts with the kind of deep creation and collection of the love of music, like that being the foundational point. So I wouldn't have like become a DJ without the kind of drive to do it through grime. And obviously I love music more broadly, but that was the kind of spark behind it. But pro tip, if you want to upset anyone on the internet, DJs, they cannot take a joke. So this is why this has got a lot of comments. And every few weeks there's someone that shares this, and like like really disagrees with it because they want to like I guess protect the art form for what it was in a previous generation. And maybe it was a bit more of an exclusive art form when it was like vinyl and this kind of level of collecting. But this is not this era now. We're living in an abundant era where you can download as many MP3s you like. Controllers are cheaper. And I think by and large, like this is better for the love of music. Maybe like not every DJ is like your cup of tea or your taste, and the way people have communicated has changed. But that's life, my friends. And yeah, I guess this other extension of, I guess most of us here, like the definition of the DJ or DJing and this expansive way I try and use the term is an active participant in a community, contextualizing artist work across different stories and formats. So I guess people that are DJing here, like identify as DJs, they're usually not just mixing one record to another. You're not mixing like Show Me Love into Pump Up the Jam. You're probably making records, writing, collecting, producing radio, putting on parties, creating documentaries, taking photos, making something of the like local scene that you're in. And this is a very like separate thing to like say like someone playing in a bar like the hits, playing like Drake and Chris Brown or something. This is not the same thing. And I think this term DJing or DJ, looking at it as something that can be quite expansive makes it more interesting. Have I got another? Is it going to work? Let's see. Maybe not. No, it's not going to work. All right. We'll keep it moving. All right. So I left this slide in here. This is quite like a UK specific thing. So BBC One Extra is like the kind of black music station in the UK, like funded by the government. So the BBC is like our government funded broadcaster. And over time, I noticed like they weren't really playing and supporting homegrown music. And as I've visited different places, it feels like every nation has had its own problem of supporting homegrown art and music and talent. And it comes up in different ways. So I kind of put out this provocation last June and then done an article about it on The Guardian, which is like a kind of lefty newspaper in the UK. Done a lecture about it and then did this kind of t-shirt, what the man then put up the aerials for. So relating back to pirate radio, people made personal, professional sacrifices to like promote homegrown music. And then eventually, I guess the public broadcaster still doesn't support it, which is kind of sad. And maybe we'll talk about that later on in the panel as well with the, I guess, the local support, if there is any, like, or if you have to like endure as much Drake and Chris Brown as we do in the UK. I don't know. Everywhere's different, but we'll talk about this. We were speaking about this at lunch as well. So this is DJ AG. He kind of posts clips of him DJing in the street in London. This is, again, breaking the form of what a traditional DJ is. I did a post about him, what I think as being the most important DJ in the UK. This was last year. And he's gone from strength to strength since. It's been like, he gets like famous guests on his show, literally just DJing in the street in London. It's like the maddest thing. And he just posts clips all day of talent from like the just rappers in the street all the way to like the most famous artists in the country. It's kind of beautiful. It's really like a simple kind of setup. He just streams on TikTok and posts the clips on Instagram. And it kind of summarizes all of these things I'm talking about in one project. So social media is a canvas, documenting the thing, deep feedback, and then, yeah, what the man to put up the aerials for. So yeah, interesting cities can't be quiet cities. Keep going. And then these are just a few other projects that I kind of like in that vein. They're not my things, I'm just in two of the videos. We'll go on this side first. This is like a music journalist called Derek G. People heard of him here? No? Oh, sick, okay, that's good. I'm doing my job. Derek G is like a sick music journalist. Just search him up on Instagram. He posts, quite kind of broad music, kind of, he's super broad. I don't know how to describe him, but he's based in Sydney and really posts interesting stuff. In the middle, this is an artist called Tigris, who made her own DJ controller, which I found like super impressive. And that's something I never would have thought of before. All of the things are pioneer. Like most of the time you don't see people thinking to rebuild it. And she just like, literally coded and 3D printed her own setup, which is sick. And then this page, has anyone seen View from a Bridge? So View from a Bridge is something that artists and people just go and talk about an idea or thoughts and feelings about society right now. And I did a clip for them last summer, which went out earlier on this year, just talking about documentation and cameras in the club. Again, which maybe we'll speak about later. And this is just some other fun ways I've used the square. Is this gonna work? Yeah. This was 2 weeks ago in the Red Bull Culture Clash in the UK. So I did these kind of dissing squares for Jotty, like the DJ's homegrown team. So it was like the yellow squares used to diss all the other artists during the show. So if you can see at the top, it was kind of appearing. And yeah, like again, just taking the square and this idea out of the original context, just having fun with it. So this was, I guess, my angle, what I could see in this venue. It was like 10,000 people or something. It was kind of nuts. I literally like just laughed out loud when I saw it. It was nuts. Anyway, and then yeah, kind of expanding that. Made an album with my friend Jams, like a Grime MC, and he took a lot of the kind of ideas I was sharing and kind of tweets and short notes, and we made songs out of them. It took a week. We just did it across Zoom and notes in the iPhone. We just kind of had little frameworks for songs, and then he recorded all of them in one day, 7 tracks, and then we put out the acapellas, got people to remix them and play around with them, and then yeah, eventually put it on a record, on a vinyl. And when I did it, I was like, oh yeah, a vinyl is a square. I could just have the square blank and do covers for everyone that bought one. Which is, do not do this idea. This is like a bad idea. I did all of them individually. You can see in this video, bit by bit. So like just hundreds now, I guess. And I guess I've used the same idea with the book. And yeah, we've kind of just found different ways of playing around with the project. And yeah, these are like the remix videos of people sending in their kind of process too. So it's still up. If anyone wants to grab the acapellas, I'll send it to you after the show. And I did kind of covers for everyone that remixed it. So I did like 100 covers for all the different producers, and I actually listened to them as well. Did you do one? No. Okay. One day, like I do all these talks, right? And I've met like 3 people that have done a remix. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Anyway, there was this famous article from back in the day called 1,000 True Fans, and a lot of kind of art companies in the early 10s were built on this idea of like having 1,000 fans is all you need. And I think today, 2025, and maybe beyond, what I've tried to do here is like 1,000 feedback loops, 1,000 ways of artists have been in conversation with each other, rather than like this idea of a fan. Like, and no one here is like my fan or something. We're just exchanging ideas and in conversation. I just like never really been interested in this, you know, this sounds really ironic just now, but of this kind of stage, that divide between me and everyone else in the room. Like I'm just hosting now, but I would be on the other side, if that makes sense. Yeah, you are not my fans. You know what I mean? We're just like together in concert. Okay. And yeah, this is the same kind of thing, like, yeah, using these slides or making your own slides and creating your own lecture. So this is like someone trolling me on Twitter from 2019. And he said, what happened to Elijah and Skilliam, my partner? It's like, but Elijah is a professor at SOAS now, which is a university in London. And then it happened. They let me become a professor for a while and started doing lectures. So that was the kind of genesis of maybe this idea expanding into lectures. But I think us gathering and talking about ideas in different ways doesn't have to be me, it could be anyone here. Maybe experiment with the format. People could have 10-minute little lectures of their own ideas and the way they think about creating scenes. I think this is good. Like, it's just a way of sharing that's pretty different. And then, yeah, the book is a collection of the yellow squares. I've been kind of doing these launches over the past 3 months now, signing them for everyone that's bought one. Big up everyone that's bought one. And it's not like, yeah, again, I'm not on the hard sell with this. Like the ideas are out there in the world already. Like they're free for everyone. This is just more like a collection. If you, it's not like a book where I feel like you can't write in it. Basically, treat it like a notepad. Use it to kind of again develop your own feedback loop and have some fun with it. Tear out ideas that you think are dumb. Tag me on Instagram with things. I don't know. Like just have fun with this. Like and once you maybe serve the purpose for you, just pass it on as well. And it just having this. Hopefully, the book has this other life that maybe social media has done over the past couple of years in a very different way. So I'm really happy with how it came out. And yeah, maybe, if I guess I never came here, the book probably wouldn't have reached. The shipping costs are crazy. So it's created this very unique scenario where I guess I've traveled around with having the book now. And yeah. And then finally is ending things is as important as starting things. I was posting these squares for maybe like 3 years on and off. And I think, with any project, it has its time. And I think it was the time of coming out of the chaos of lockdown, rebuilding, connecting with the world again. And I feel like that bit of like this thing has been kind of complete. I visited everywhere that was reasonably practical to do. Anyone that invited me somewhere, I said, all right, I'm gonna just say yes to everything that I could do. And I've managed to do it. This is effectively like the last stop on this tour, which is like very fortunate. And I knew that eventually that the platform or Instagram would change. It literally went from Facebook to Meta. It went from squares to rectangles. It went from Twitter to X. And now we're here. So I think I'm kind of moving on and like trying something new and developing new ideas. Obviously the ethos of what I put out is always going to be in my projects, but actually moving away and expanding in other ways. Just keep things fun and interesting, and we'll see. So I'll leave it there for now. Could do some questions maybe before we have a break. And yeah, that's me. Yeah. Okay, so we do some questions. We've got a second mic, right?
Check. Yes, we've got a second mic here, brother. And we'll open up the floor for some questions. So ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, just put your hand up. We'll pass you over the mic, introduce yourself, and fire your question. First question, Ice Guy. No, I'm only joking. Any questions? No, but serious. Any questions, bro? Any questions in regards to the stems that he was talking about just now? Yeah? Because we got a load of producers in the house here tonight, and I know a few people, especially Andrew up there. Andrew was like, I need to get my hands on those stems. Here we go. I'll come over to you in a minute, bro.
This is going to be an easy one. So the version of Make the Thing that was on the bus stop,
yes,
that has the H in it. Yeah. But your original one is, it's a mad thing. It's a Ting. So what happened there?
Okay, yeah, good question. Okay, so I don't know if you realize that this whole thing is very impulsive, quite impromptu. So when I had the billboard idea, it was that friend that was like, oh man, these people on social media, they're idiots. Like, so I was like, as a joke, I would put the square out of the station that we live near. So when he came out of the station, he was like, what the hell? Like, you've seen this thing. But then I thought I wanted to get the handles of Make the Thing, but I couldn't get it. So I was just like, Make the Ting, because I'm Jamaican and it's like more like a Jamaican way to say ting instead of thing. So eventually I made it Make the Ting and just made that consistent. But at first, it was more like a joke. And the amount of things, like good things that come out of trying to make like a bit of humor, put a bit of humor into the work has been really strong. But yeah, thanks for the questions.
Make the things versus make the tings, get me though. Any more questions? Over here, let's go.
Hi, Elijah. I'm Has from All Access.
Yes, bro.
I have a question in regards to your experience with close to Make the Thing movement. What are the biggest challenges artists face in taking control of their careers in this current digital age?
I think all of us are just seeing too much. So I guess in the first wave of me producing work and helping other artists producing work, we didn't really see what anyone else did until it was finished. You didn't see like every artist for or like their social media strategy and all of this advice piling at people. So there's like too much information, right? I know I'm adding to this with my own ideas, I guess, but like the ability to dial out and say, no, this is dumb. Like Elijah's an idiot is like a good thing. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like there's not enough space for that sometimes online or like in our communities and social settings. So that's why I can use this project as something where people can say, I'll push back on this. I think this is dumb. Like, let's go this way, or I'm going to go this way instead, and having a very different point of view. So yeah, I guess the short answer is the amount of information that we're swamped with and then trying to like work out what to do with it. Sometimes you feel like everything has been said, everything has been complete, every picture's been drawn, every song has been made, every way of telling someone how you love them has been said. Like, it's just, it feels like that sometimes. But then as I've just explored this project, sometimes I write things down and think, did I hear this somewhere else? And I'll Google it just to make sure that it's like doesn't exist or it's not been said before. I'm like, sometimes if I've come out of like a banger, I'm like, oh my days, no one said this before, in this way at least. And I'm like running around the room, I'm like, yes, bro. Anyway, long answer to a short question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, bro. Bro up.
Any more questions, ladies and gentlemen? All right, Iqbal.
Hey, hey, Elijah. I think what you've put out here is very inspiring for a lot of creators out there, right? And a lot of people want to do what you do, right? But there's always the conversation about money.
Yes.
Right? You still need to get paid, right? You know, whether you're a promoter, you want to sell tickets, you want to make money. Whether you're an artist, you want to get paid for your art. But there's always this back and forth, this ebb and flow. You know, as an event organizer, I've told many local acts like, "Hey, play for free. I'll give you some promotion." The fact is, I can't pay you until I sell tickets, right? So, for example, in terms of what you've done, can you tell me the economics behind it? Like, how did you fund it? Like, how did you get the billboard out? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay, great question. Not many people ask me about money, and I encourage people. Even there's some scenarios where I would be like, "This is a good situation to ask me about money." I'll do 4 different points. Okay. See what I was doing at the beginning. So by 2012 to December 2024, I was a music manager. So see that as like my day job. And then this is like a side project. So there was no monetary intent of this project at all. At all. It was just something I was doing to like more like on a philanthropical level. I was like, I've been learning all this time. Like I've done, things that have been like reasonably successful. Let me share what I've learned for nothing. I'm charging nothing because I feel like that's what I can give back to the community or to the scene that I'm part of or the things I'm part of. That was what the genesis of the project was. Then eventually, I guess people started inviting me to talk in places. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll use the income from some of these things and then put it into the project directly. So it wasn't me like taking the fee and then buying avocados or whatever people spend the money on. It was just like putting it back in. So with the billboard, for example, it's one of the companies that we worked with for another artist project. And I asked them, hey, like I'm doing this thing. Can you do me a deal? And it's just for one thing, literally by my house. And they're like, sure. The same with the football one for Leyton Orient. I go to the games and I just ask them like, hey, I'm a fan. Like, can we talk? Like, look what I'm doing. And the amount of like kind of generosity I got back because they could see I wasn't trying to like make money out of this thing. As it kept going, I guess I got invited to more places, done more things. I had a few kind of brand projects on the side. So I worked with Jägermeister on this thing called Save the Night. I've got a project with Nike next week and a few other things that I've like, they pay like reasonably well. And that's given me a bit of a buffer in terms of what I can do with the project, right? So the direct intent, who I'm actually selling the thing to, like, is I've tried to keep it as free as possible. And that's why I share information in the way I do. There wasn't like, I'm not trying to maximize shareholder value. This was just like, I'm in a position where I feel like I can, so I will. Does that make sense? There's not like a perfect answer, but that is like more true. There's a lot of things I could have done that would have maybe made more money, but I think would have, it's like it makes the incentives worse. And I wouldn't have been able to quit. If I made a business around it, I would have had to, oh my God, I've got to make orange squares now, and I've got to do music advice, I've got to sell your course. I would have to keep upselling people, whereas I was like, this is a very short window of time where I can dedicate to this and leave it at that. And that's been the kind of compromise that I've made here. And then I guess with the book, now that it exists, the book is kind of like expensive in some ways, but hopefully people see it as maybe I've done 3 years of work for free, and then it's like paying for like 3 years of a magazine subscription in one go. Does this make sense? But I guess because of the other circumstances of the other things doing well, has given me the bandwidth to do this. So it's not this, that again, I needed the fortunate situation of that, or just effectively just a day job. And then this I can just do, and it's as true as it can be. Does this make sense? So when I speak to other artists, I'm like, how much freedom will you have if, for example, in the best case scenario, you can work 4 days a week or whatever it is, or work from home, and then you have a bit of time to create. What do you create with if you only have 10 hours a week? Do that project instead of trying to make Purple Rain or Thriller. We don't have all day. So this is what I can do with the time that I have and the resources that I have. Obviously, my album is not Thriller. It's, what's the like local Thriller of here? I don't know. Like, you know, like I don't know, some, like, it's not a classic album. It's just what I could do with the resources that I had. And the album cost it was about I guess £200 because we did the studio in one day, and so efficient. And then the vinyl records cost like £1,000. So, and then we sold them for £20. So like it's made some money. But again, that wasn't the intent. If I was trying to make money, yeah, I mean, there's bits of this project where I feel like if I was trying to make money, I would have lost money. I wasn't trying to make money and then have made some money. Yeah. Long answer to a short question.
Any more questions, people? Any more questions? All right. Lunadira.
Hello.
Hi. This is kind of like a two-part question.
Okay.
The first one is, what's your compass when you're creating? And the second is, how much does external validation affect your creations?
Damn. Yeah. Okay. The compass is that's a good question. I guess I'm observant in terms of what everyone agrees with together that I feel like people would separately disagree with. Does this make sense? There's agreements that we have to have as a collective that make sense for all of us together, but then you might not individually agree. So I'm like, okay, there's something in that worth exploring. So we might say something like, even something like really loose, like trust the process. I'm like, what does that even mean? I don't even understand. Let me explore that and like kind of stretch the meanings or like change things around to something that I feel like works for me in my head. Or what is another good example of this? All right, here's an easy controversial one. Shall I? All right, here's an easy, all right, controversial one. All right. When everyone was like, Black Lives Matter, I was like, yeah, okay, how do we build on this? And at the time, I was like, this feels like when all the corporations are saying the same thing as like the people, I was like, there's something not right here. It's not that Black Lives don't matter. It's just like once something becomes like a slogan or an armband or something that Nike says or something that every football team in the UK does, and we all kneel at the same time, it's not effective. Like, that message is not cutting through. That change that we think is being made, something is not going to hit here, and there's going to be like a kind of backlash to this in some way that we can't expect. And then now, like 4 years later, you see these like things of diversity and inclusion, they've been ripped up by the corporation. So they never believed in it. They were just all following. So at the time, when that was all announced, I actually deleted social media completely. And I was offline for like nearly a year. And then that's when I came back onto the internet, it was more like questioning everything. Does this make sense? So it was like I was like really confused and really like, why are all these people like agreeing and maybe like not questioning everything? We're artists. We're supposed to question what's happening. We're supposed to have an artistic response to everything. Like when that feels like it's left the room, I get a bit scared. And then the second bit of your question, external validation. Again, this is why ending things is important than starting things. I am getting dopamine hits, I guess, from doing this project. I'm not like above it. So it just has to stop. Then I'll just delete it. At least delete it off my phone so people can communicate with me if they have to. And then I'll just go back to doing something else. So I knew this was like a very short window of time. I think this would have been very problematic, again, if I built my whole life around, the validation and talking in public all the time and building some sort of cult personality. This is not something I wanted to do. It's like something that I'm very suspicious of myself. But I've got here now. But again, knowing the line of being like, that's enough. Back underground, doing whatever I'm doing. Does this make sense? This is not a perfect answer. I mean, even the previous point, I don't feel like I perfectly articulated, but it's the truth. It's a good question. Thank you.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, talking about starting things and ending things, unfortunately, we need to end this thing right now because it is time for breaking fast, bro. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we do that, Elijah, what we'd like to do, bro, is bro, can I get you to sit over to the left over here? Elijah, we'd like you to sit down here with our audience, and we want to take a group photo of everyone involved. So, like, guys, can we get the photographers to come up here on stage? So anyone with a book, let's see your book up in the air. Put the books up. We want to see those books. Put them up. We're going to get our photographers up on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, you're all at the back. And let's try to get everyone in. Put the wide angle on. We get Elijah at the front here. So show your records, show your books. Let's see all those smiley faces. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And you know what? I want to get in this as well, yeah? So let's not forget that, right?